Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got a video covering the 6 new tanks that have been added to the Valor store. That is the Frostbite, the Cromwell Knight, the Iron Rain Ramatal Balsig, the Fraternite Char MLE 75, the Zizka Skoda T40, and the Stark STRV S1. If you do like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below, as it really does help out the channel. And yes, they've added 6 new tanks to the Valor store that you can get for flags, which means you can get these tanks for free if you earn enough flags. Didn't expect them to do this, and when I made the first video, it was only just come out that they were going to be adding these on the Friday. So, we're going to start from left to right, and we're going to start here with the little tier 5 Sherman Frostbite Grizzly M4, which is a British tier 5 premium medium tank, as it is the Grizzly, which is a Canadian Sherman, pretty sure. So, the Grizzly M4, or the Frostbite, what's it like as a tank? It's just your typical little tier 5 preferential Sherman, to be honest. And that is, it's fairly mobile, it's got pretty good view range for a tier 5, it's got pretty decent camo for a tier 5. It's got pref, which is always nice, which means it doesn't see tier 7s. The gun kind of sucks, and the penetration is pretty low, which is one of the real downsides to this vehicle, which is why it has pref. But on the whole, it's not a bad little tier 5 tank. It's been given away in a season pass or two before, and in little earn-ups as well, so most people probably already own this vehicle, but there we go. What do I run in terms of a crew and equipment on the Sherman Grizzly, or the Frostbite? Well, I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Camouflage Expertise, Silent Driving, Steady Aim, Run and Gun, and Snapshot. All three gun perks, to make sure that this gun is as good as humanly possible, because the gun is really not great if you do not help it, so you want to help it out with these 3 perks. The Camouflage Expertise and Silent Driving to get the camo down as low as possible, because camo is very important, especially at tier 5, where view ranges are a lot lower. So if you have a decently high view range, like the Grizzly does, and decently low enough camo, you can outspot people at great distances, and that can be an asset for the Grizzly. And in terms of the equipment, I run the Advanced Loader, the Optics, and the Camo Net. Camo Net to get the 292 meters of still concealment that you see there. The Optics to be able to get the 473 meters of view range, and the Advanced Loader to get the best out of the DPM, so that we can absolutely shred things if they do get caught in our midst, if we can pen them. In terms of the modules, that's where the engine bay is for the Sherman Grizzly, or for the Frostbite. I'll always call it the Grizzly, but yeah. For the Frostbite, that's where the engine bay is. The tank does like getting set on fire, as it has got an internal fire chance of 20%. It does like getting set on fire, so do be careful of that. That's where the ammo racks are. Once again, this thing gets damaged ammo rack quite commonly, so do be careful. And that's where the crew sits in the Sherman Grizzly, or in the Frostbite. Let's now have a look at the statistics with it fully kitted out. So as you can see, you've got a 48 km/h top speed, 18 km/h reverse speed, 400 horsepower engine, which is 13.31 horsepower per ton ratio, which means that you will get to your top speed in this vehicle. It's just a little bit slow and sluggish at times to get there, but you will get there, just like most other Shermans. 38 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed means the tracks do turn pretty decently quickly for this Grizzly M4, and you've got a 42.35 degree a second turret rotation speed as well, which means the turret turns faster than the tracks, which is pretty nice for the Frostbite. Ground resistances are fantastic, they do not hold the tank back whatsoever. 292 meters of still concealment is pretty nice, with 300 of on the move concealment. That's also pretty decent as well. It's not fantastic camo, but it's decent enough, especially for a tier 5, which means that a lot of tier 5s will actually struggle to spot you, especially if you're using concealment. 473 meters of view range is also pretty damn nice for the Frostbite Grizzly M4, meaning you can spot targets at decent distances, especially at tier 5, which is pretty nice for it. A lot of tier 5s don't have that good a view range, so it's the thing that most of the Shermans have, is pretty nice view range. 1.33 accuracy during rotation, with a 2.46 accuracy during movement, is really not very good, and it means the aim circle blooms out hugely, and it's really not very nice in terms of that bloom, which is why we've helped it out with all 3 gun perks, and even with all 3 gun perks, it's still not great. But it does have a 1.84 second aim time, which means it does aim in pretty quickly though, which is pretty good for the Frostbite. You've also got 12 degrees of gun depression, which is Sherman-esque. A lot of the Shermans have this, which is very, very nice for being very flexible on a ridgeline, and it's pretty damn good for the M4. You got 0.32 accuracy at 100 meters as well, which again isn't the most, well, it's accurate, but it isn't the most accurate in the universe. And that's because we've helped it out as much as possible to get it there. But it's still, it will hit most of its shots when it's fully aimed. The biggest problem this tank suffers is that accuracy during rotation and movements being so poor. A 2.77 second reload is 2.3, nearly 2.4 kdpm, which is actually pretty good for a tier 5 medium tank, and especially one with pref, so we'll take it. But what is poor is the 97mm of penetration on the standard AP, with 127mm of penetration on the premium AP, and 38mm of penetration on the HE. The pen on this tank is really not very good, as this is the stock Sherman gun that they put on a lot of these preferential M4 Sherman variants. And, yeah, it sucks. It genuinely does. As soon as you're going against a lot of tier 6s, the tier 6s, yeah, you just struggle to pen them, even with 127mm of pen, especially if they're a bit more heavily armoured, and that can be a bit of a frustration for you in your Frostbite Grizzly M4. 690 meters a second shell velocity on the standard AP, with 774 meters a second shell velocity on the premium AP. Again, not great. Means you have to give a lot of lead at distance to be able to hit your targets in the Frostbite Grizzly M4, and that can just be super frustrating at how derpy this gun can feel, because that shell velocity is really not great. And then you've got a 149% silver earn rate, which for a tier 5 is actually pretty good. It means this tank, for a tier 5, does make pretty decent silver, so we'll take that for the Frostbite Grizzly M4 as well. And the one thing I did forget to mention is the armour. It's an M4 Sherman. It basically has no armour, except for a little bit on the gun mantlet, but most tier 5s and 6s will still pen you anyway. But yeah, that's the Frostbite Grizzly M4. Like I say, it's a tank you can get in the Valor store from Friday, and yeah, it's not the best tank in the universe, to be fair. It's alright. It's just another preferential Sherman tier 5 tank that is just a bit meh, realistically, but there we go. So what I'm going to do is send you into the replays where you can watch this tank in action, see how it handles, and just see if it's worth picking up or not. So I'll see you in the replays. So here we are in the little tier 5 Sherman Grizzly, or the Frostbite. I told you I'll keep calling it the Grizzly, because it's just a cool name, the Grizzly, you know? It's a cool M4 Sherman, but there we go. So, we're here on this map, which is Cliff. And on Cliff, what I want to do is, because we're in this spawn, if we were the other spawn and we started at K3, I would rush to the middle at EF3, and then I could shoot across at the people as they cross the 6-7 line. But from our spawn, it's a lot harder to be able to take that middle area easily, and also a big problem with that is the fact that they get there that little bit quicker, and a lot of the time you will end up just blowing up. I mean, it's a do or die play from their spawn, but it's easier to get there for them and then get easier shots across the way, whereas from our side, it's not quite as good with the shots. So, from our side at A3, I am going to go to the middle where the medium tank currently is, go to about E5-6, and I can use the fantastic 12 degrees of gun depression that this Frostbite's got, go hull down, only really expose my turret, try and use a little bit of the camo as well by firing through the bushes, try and stay unspotted, and just farm up with the nearly 2.4k DPM, which, like I say, is pretty damn good DPM for a little tier 5 medium tank. So we've caught out the little T14, and we managed to get 2 shots into that guy with setting him on fire, although only one penned, the other one just bounced, which is a sad time. Artillery started looking at us, so we just got to be a little bit careful. We don't want to get hit by artillery. We don't want the piggy to hit us. We want to be hitting the piggy and getting our bacon. So now we're unspotted, we can just sit and wait, and it's all about patience, because at the minute, they've got 12 tanks left. But there's only been, like, 3 tanks that we could have seen. Where are the rest of the enemy team? Well, one place that they could be is naturally, apart from the 2 that are spotted at E8 and H8, where they could be is on the 1-2 line. Just sitting on the 1-2 line happens all the time, where you find most of our team is camped at DCB1. Their team will have done the same. But with some of their team now moving into the dip, we're going to go and counter that push so that we can punish them for not even trying to take it in the first place. So we've got the side of this Churchill 1. We're trying to track and pen him, but, well, we haven't actually managed to pen him. But we have tracked him, and now we can farm his side, and he gets finished off. We're up to 537 damage with 378 assistance. Now we're in a very good aggressive position where we can poke over, use our 12 degrees of gun depression, and then use the 473 meters of view range as well to be able to spot out their campers. And hello, campers! I see a piggy. Now, I was so tempted to fire, but what I'm trying to do is just sit here and spot them up and let my team try and shoot them. but there's no shoe stings going on. So you know what? We're just going to poke over, use the 12 degrees gun depression, and eliminate the first piggy, or the only piggy, really. Get that bacon, because that's what we want. But now we can just leverage our 12 degrees gun depression on this little ridge and just keep trying to work them over. Now, it's a bit awkward with 97mm of penetration. As you see, we're even bouncing off a Sherman. Off the front of a Sherman. It's a Sherman. It's got no armour. Bit unfortunate with some of the bouncers, but at the same time, yeah, the penetration's a bit poopy, to be fair. So we get the shot into the side of the Stug 3G, finishing him off. 97 pen is enough to go through a Matilda, so we shut down the Matilda as well, and there's 4 tanks left. The medium tank below us, well, you know what? It'd be rude not to, wouldn't it? It would. Oh, yes. That's the kind of thing we love to see. And we get our 5th kill of this game for 1841 damage, 957 assistance. It's a shame the crush didn't happen. And then I'm like, oh, well, wait, what's still looking? Oh, it's a TD there. Well, I'll just try and get the top gun. No top gun for us, sadly. And we're on 5 kills with the 1946 damage with only 2 tanks left, and I'm pretty sure it's the 2 tanks that were spotted earlier on the top section. So we're going to try and use the 48 km/h top speed that this vehicle gets to try and get there and get that little bit extra damage. Now, since there's a heavy tank left in the T14, 97 pen is not going to deal with the T14. We need the 127, and even 127 pen is still going to struggle with a T14. It's the sad time of it. Our penetration is sucky. It's one of the reasons why we have preferential matchmaking and why so many of these Shermans that are premium have preferential matchmaking, because they all tend to have this gun, and it kind of sucks. I do wish that one day we'll get a Sherman premium with the 105mm Derp gun, because, you know, Derp is love, Derp is life. We like Derp around here. And to have a Derp gun on a premium Sherman would be pretty awesome, but hey-ho, most Sherman premiums that seem to come out all have this gun, or they're some sort of Firefly or Easy 8. But there we go. So, we are going to poke over this ridge. Again, use the 12 degrees of gun depression. I could have gone round to the left of this rock, right? I could have gone to the left of the rock to get easier, quicker shots at the HMCM8 or the T14. But I've come this way because I can get safe over the ridgeline if I get spotted, and can just use the 12 degrees of gun depression to try and farm them without giving too much away. So we're trying to find some shots into the back of the HMCM8. I'm not quite sure he knew how close he was to death there. So when he poked out, we managed to secure the kill there for our 6th kill, our top gun. And we don't get the chance to go after the T14 because we end up capping for the victory. But we'll take the win. And we finished the game with a really nice total there for the Sherman Frostbite Grizzly. We finished with the victory. The 6 kills, 1964 damage with 1900 base XP with the 1453 assistance damage, ace tanker, high caliber top gun, and that's the Sherman Frostbite. You can get it for free in the Valor store. Like I say, it's just an average Sherman. So we're on to the next tank that has been added to the Valor store for you to be able to get for free if you want to pick it up for flags, and that is the Cromwell Knight. Old but gold. This is the Cromwell that I always loved, because I wasn't a big fan of the standard Cromwell or the Cromwell B, and that's because it felt like it took an age to aim the gun, and then you'd miss anyway, because the gun was pretty troll, and you fired very quickly. This tank, for me, is great, and I always loved it, because it aimed in super quickly. The gun handling was just as terrible as the standard Cromwells in terms of the accuracy during rotation and movement, so the aim circle blooms out hugely, same as they do. But your aim time is way, way faster than the standard Cromwell or the Cromwell B. But in lieu of the 0.36 accuracy they have, you had 0.4 accuracy. So you were a lot derpier in terms of your gun handling. But to be honest, in terms of the way it felt, it missed just as many shots as the standard Cromwell or the Cromwell B, but you got to aim in faster, which means you got the shots out a little bit quicker, which always felt nicer for the Cromwell Knight. So, I always loved this vehicle. It was always a lot of fun to play. And to be honest, any of the Cromwells still are a lot of fun to play. I think I'm going to have a video on the Cromwell B at some point in the near future as well, which you'll get to see the difference between the two as well, because we had some very nice games in that tank. And yeah, this tank is a lot of fun. Again, it's one of those that's a nostalgia tank. It's one of the first tanks that I went, yeah, I want that premium, I'm going to go get it. And we went and got it, and it was fantastic amounts of fun. And it's extremely British and patriotic. Who can deny that, right? So, the Cromwell Knight. What do I run in terms of a crew and equipment? Well, the crew are on Born Leader, Rapid Reload, 6th Sense, Situational Awareness, Steady Aim, run and gun, snapshot with the camouflage expertise and silent driving. A pretty standard, stealthy medium tank crew where I can get the camo down as low as possible with camouflage expertise and a camo net, and then have silent driving to keep the camo during movement down as low as possible as well, so I can sneak into position. All 3 gun perks, because the gun is atrocious, so you want to help it out as much as you can do with all 3 of those as well. And then in terms of the equipment, I was always happy with how fast this tank fired before 6.0, and sure, you can make the DPM even better with an advanced loader alongside the advanced reload perk, right? But I felt like the tank still misses quite a few shots. So instead of just making the reload better and making it absolutely amazing and still missing shots, I decided I wanted to make everything about the tank better, like the view range, so I could have better spotting games as well with this vehicle, as well as making the reload a little bit better with vents. And I sacrificed the advanced loader for vents just to make everything about the tank that little bit better, seeing as the gun handling, like I say, is a bit poo on it at times, and sometimes, even though you were firing about half a second to a second faster, you were still missing a lot of shots, so you weren't actually getting the most out of that effective DPM anyway. And since it was already really good as it was before 6.0, before we got the advanced reload perk, I just thought, you know what, screw it, I'll run vents, get the best view range I can possibly get, so then I can play this thing like a pseudo scout, which it can do very, very well, get the camo as low as possible with the camo net and the optics to have the best view range, and the vents will help the reload out, make it better, but it'll also make the view range better, the aim time better, the accuracy better, everything about the tank. So that's why I run that, but you could quite happily drop the vents and run the advanced loader and get an even better reload, because we've got a reload of, what, 3.08 seconds with this build, and if I drop the vents and run the advanced loader, we now have a 2.84 second reload, so we gain 0.2 of a second on the reload, which is, again, fantastic DPM, but then just everything else generally gets that little bit worse. We lose 10 meters of view range, and that 10 meters of view range can mean quite a lot for spotting things a little bit further, and can really help with the pseudo-scout gameplay that this thing does get. So, in terms of the modules, that's where the engine bay is for this vehicle. Again, it likes getting set on fire if you get shot in that back end, so do be very careful of that. The ammo racks are there in the Cromwell. If you get shot in the front, the likelihood is you're going to have your ammo rack damaged, because it tends to go through 2 sets of ammo racks if a shell enters your vehicle, so do be careful. And that is where the crew sits in the Cromwell Knight. And in terms of armour, it's a Cromwell. It has basically nothing, so you will get penned by most vehicles. Avoid KV2s. Avoid them, like the plague, because their HE will pen you, and they'll one-shot you. So, yeah, pain. Absolute pain for you if you come against a KV2. In terms of the statistics for the Crommy Knight, we've got a 64 km/h top speed, 20 km/h reverse speed, 650 horsepower engine, which is 23.19 horsepower per ton ratio, which means you're an extremely mobile vehicle, which again helps with that pseudo-scout gameplay that this thing can get. You got 50 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed, so the tank does turn very quickly on its tracks. Ground resistances that do not hold it back whatsoever. 279 meters of still concealment. Again, pretty damn fantastic camo for a medium tank, with 288 meters of on-the-move concealment. Again, pretty good, great camo for a medium tank, even on the move. So it's quite difficult to spot this vehicle, which helps you, again, play that pseudo-scout gameplay. 471 meters of view range, again, helps it to spot for itself quite nicely, and you can get some big assistance games in this vehicle if you play it right. 53.16 degrees a second on the turret rotation speed. Like I say, it's faster than the tracks, which is pretty good. A 1.16 accuracy during rotation is not very good at all. It means the aim circle blooms it out a lot while turning the turret and the tank. And you've got a 4.35 accuracy during movement, which again is atrocious. It means the aim circle becomes huge on this tank, which is, yeah, a thing that is a pain for most of the Cromwells, to be fair. 8 degrees of gun depression, though, is pretty nice. It means you are fairly flexible on a ridgeline in the Cromwell Knight, and it can be a nice place to play for this vehicle, where you can go hold down on a ridgeline, make it so that they can't really see any of your hull, but they can just about see your turret. Occasionally, you might ricochet shots off the turret, but you'll never do that reliably. But also, it means that you can poke over a ridgeline, fire at someone, pull back, and get safe, right? So that can be an asset for the tank. You do have a 1.72 second aim time, though, and that is absolutely incredible for the Cromwell Knight. And the it means you get the aim circle aimed in very, very fast, and you can use the rip-roaring DPM this thing can get out as well to be able to slay things very, very quickly and hit your shots. Although you do have 0.32 accuracy, which is pretty accurate, but with the base accuracy, it can still feel a bit derpy at times, this gun, which can be a bit annoying. You got 2.6k DPM for that 3.08 second reload. Like I say, you do get about, you've lost about 200 DPM there, because you get about 2.8k DPM if you run the advanced loader, but still, the 2.6k DPM is fantastic, and if you make everything else generally better about the tank, it can still be worth it to do that. 145 pen on the standard AP is pretty nice, with 210 pen on the premium APCR, and 38 penetration on the HE. The HE isn't too great, and you don't use it that often, to be perfectly honest. But the standard pen on the 145 is pretty decent for a tier 6 medium tank, and 202 premium pen is enough to go through most vehicles you're going to face, except for some of the more heavily armoured tier 8 vehicles. You got 785 meters a second shell velocity on the standard AP, with 981 meters a second shell velocity on the premium APCR, which again is below average and is a bit slow, especially the standard AP, and that just helps this gun feel pretty damn derpy at times. So remember to give a lot of lead at distance to be able to hit your targets with this gun. But if you load the APCR, you will feel a rather large difference in the gun handling, because that shell velocity does get that wee bit better. You've also got a silver earn rate of 125%, which is on the low end, so this tank doesn't really make too many silver. Well, it doesn't make too much silver whatsoever, as opposed to, say, the Frostbite that you've already seen, which is 149%. But yeah, it doesn't make too much silver at all. You will lose a decent amount because you'll have to fire quite a bit of premium as well at times in the Cromwell Knight. But yeah, that's the Cromwell Knight. Like I say, it is a lot of fun. The Cromwell has always been a classic, fun, support, pseudo-scout type medium tank. You can have a lot of fun with it. You can YOLO around, go spotting, support, smash shells downrange with the fantastic DPM. It's just a barrel load of fun, the Cromwell Knight. Always has been, always will be. So what I'm going to do now is send you into the replay where you can watch this tank in action, see how it handles, and see if it's a bit of you or not. So here we are with the Crommy Knight. Now, I've always loved Mr. Cromwell Knight. Always, 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 because you've got that great 64 km/h top speed, the great camo at 279. You got decent view range if you set it up like I have with the vents and the optics. Like I say, I could quite easily run the advanced loader and have that even better DPM. I mean, having an extra 200 DPM is always lovely. But like I say, before 6.0, the 2.6k DPM was good enough. And being able to just buff up our view range instead and have the ability to be that pseudo-scout, that's what I want to do. Because the Cromwell can act as a scout tank quite easily, and especially is very useful to do that when you're in those bottom tier matchups where you just sit there going, I'm not sure what I'm going to be able to do here. Well, you can just use the mobility aggressively, use the good camo, use the good view range, go find a bush somewhere and try and spot the enemy team up and be that scout for your team. You can do that. But when you get top tier like this, you can also be nice and aggressive, because it's a lot harder for the enemy team to be able to spot you, seeing as view range is a lot lower at these tiers. And then you can just out-DPM a lot of them and just have a good YOLO wagon time, which is what the Cromwell can do. But it's one of those tanks that you can YOLO about him, but if you YOLO about him at the wrong time and try and YOLO the wrong targets, you're going to die very, very easily, because you are still a rather large target, which means you're pretty damn easy to hit, and most of the time if you YOLO in on people, you're going to take a few hits unless you're managing to out-traverse their turrets, which is the big, dumb, slow, heavy tanks a lot of the time. So we loaded the APCR rounds for the Churchill Oki, and we managed to shut down... Churchill, are you okay? Are you okay? Well, he's not okay anymore, is he? As he got shut down by our APCR round, and we secure our second kill of the game on the T-34 as well. Trying to find a shot into this... That shouldn't have hit. We will take that, because that should never have hit, but we'll take it, as we're now farming up the Easy 8, because I'm not quite sure what this Easy 8 was actually trying to achieve. Hopefully pick up our third kill of the game, which we managed there. Our 8 degrees of gun depression with the ridgeline that we'd chosen wasn't quite good enough, but we managed to just maneuver ourselves on the ridgeline a little bit better, and that way we got some easier shots out. So we've seen the artillery shell. It was flying out from behind the ridge at K23, but the KV-1 was tracked in an awkward position. We were always going to go try and get that guy out, and we managed to do that. The T-37 is also an adversary that is deadly for us as a Cromwell, because he is... To be fair, we play very similarly to a T-37. We've got that similar fast-firing gun, the similar great mobility, similar pretty good camo, similar view range. T-37 is my love as a Tier 6 light tank. It's, again, the first tank I ever 3-marked, and it was a lot of fun to play. But the Cromwell is just as good as at it, and, yeah, well, you saw it can absolutely trash it. If you lead your shots correctly, you can really smash home the rounds very, very fast in the Cromwell Knight, and you will be surprised how quickly damage racks up too. So they've got 6 tanks left on the enemy team, 2 in the cap. So we're going to poke round this corner here at H6, hopefully have the cap in a crossfire, and we can get shots at those guys in the cap from safety through the bushes using our camo, which we have. Unfortunately, we missed the shot on the T-34, but we do get the shot in to finish off the Semavente M41 for our Top Gun. The T-34-85 gets shut down by the 3002M with a bit of a ram as well. So we're going to try and get into a position to get up behind the heavy tanks that are going towards the G9 position. But we saw that there were shots flying from around this corner. So that's what I wanted to do, is get up behind those guys, but also try and see what the tank destroyers were that were firing at my team. Now, I know there's another tank destroyer over this ridge, but I might also be in the perfect position to shoot the heavy tanks. So we find the Mr. T-67, and since we're below the ridgeline and that guy can't get us, and we're in a perfect spot to start shooting the heavy tanks, that's what we're going to do. We're going to ignore the T-67 for now, because if he comes over, all of the team that are coming this way will be able to get him easily, whereas I can help the one medium tank that's currently fighting the heavy tanks and get easy shots into their rear. But now we have to pay attention to the T-67, because he was coming, and again, we can die to the T-67 very, very quickly. So we turned our attention to him, got a shot in, and then, again, what I said came to pass, is the moment that that guy decided to come over, he was dead, and, well, he died. And we finished again with a really good total there for the Cromwell Knight. The epic victory, 6 kills, 3.6k damage, 1300 assistance, showing you what the Cromwell can do. The ace tanker, high caliber Confederate, the Top Gun, with that 2.3k base XP. And yeah, that's the Cromwell that you can get for free in the Valor store. I say it's the Crommy Knight. It's always a lot of fun, always a barrel of laughs, and just an absolutely solid pickup of a tank to get for free. Always. Always, always, always. So here we are with the next tank in the list, and it is the Iron Rain Rheinmetall Borsig Waffenträger, which is a tank destroyer that is really not my cup of tea. It's just like the Stark STRV S1 that we're going to get to later. I do not like playing this tank at all, and it's just one of those things that I don't enjoy it, because you really can't be that aggressive in it. The clip is great, and you will clip things for 1500, and that can be hilarious when it works, but generally the gun sometimes feels that little bit more derpy than the standard Borsig with the 128. And the reload is pretty long as well. You're fairly slow in this vehicle. You got the one thing you can't deny is the fact that the camo on this tank is absolute filth. The camouflage on this vehicle is absolutely immense, which is the way it's meant to play. It's meant to play as that really stealthy sit-at-the-back tank destroyer that doesn't really be aggressive. It sits, waits for its prey to come into its sights, and then it deletes them with its clip, which I'd say can be super satisfying. And if you like the super stealthy, campy gameplay, that's what this Iron Rain Borsig does very, very well. But I can't be aggressive in it. I just don't enjoy playing it whatsoever. And yeah, so I don't like this tank whatsoever. But there we go. But then again, it's also the fact that I quite like the standard Borsig with the big gun because memes. And yeah, the 128 is always one that I've never really enjoyed with either the Waffle Panzer IV or the Borsig. I always enjoyed the bigger guns on those vehicles. But yeah, there we go. So the Iron Rain, as a tank destroyer, it's a pretty damn solid tank destroyer. The only downside, the two downsides to it are the fact that it's pretty slow and that the gun can be a bit derpy at times, especially when you've got a longer reload on the autoloader. It can be just a pain when you miss those shots. But on the whole, for that super stealthy kind of gameplay, it's pretty damn solid at it. So what do I run in terms of a crew and equipment on this vehicle? Well, I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Camouflage Expertise, Silent Driving, Muffled Shot, with Steady Aim and Run and Gun. Now, I run Steady Aim to make the accuracy 10% better on this vehicle because, like I say, it's a bit derpier than the standard Borsig, so I want to make sure that this gun is actually pretty accurate and hit the shots because it really counts to hit those shots with this autoloader. Run and Gun to get the accuracy during movement down, just so that when I do decide to move, the aim circle doesn't bloom out horrifically. Now, it still does bloom out really badly, and you could quite easily just get rid of that perk very, very easily and add in something like Green Thumb to be able to make the camo even more filthy on this vehicle, especially while in a bush, making it incredibly difficult for you to be spotted, because as soon as this vehicle gets spotted, it dies. It's just the way it is for the Rheinmetall Borsig and for the Iron Rain. So you could run Green Thumb as well. The Run and Gun perk is definitely something that's a bit superlative for the vehicle, but I just like to run it just to make the accuracy during movement a little bit better so that the aim circle isn't too bad while moving. But yeah, you could change that quite easily in general. And in terms of the equipment, I run the optics, the camo net, and the GLD. The optics to be able to get the 461 meters of view range, so I can spot people at a bit further distances, especially with the fact that I will outspot them very easily since my camo is so good. The camo net to get the, again, make the strength of the vehicle, which is the camouflage, even more insane at 195 meters of still concealment. And the GLD to make that aim time better, because the aim time is also a bit long on this vehicle without the GLD, and since we're going to be sat still a decent amount as well, which is why I say Run and Gun might be a bit superlative. The GLD will help the aim time get that down that little bit faster, and it means that we'll be able to get the gun aimed in a bit quicker and get the shots down range, because the aim time is a little bit longer on this vehicle too. In terms of the modules, that's where the engine block is on this tank, and yeah, the engine gets knocked out all the time on the Balsig. That's one of the pains of the vehicle, is that as soon as you get shot, your engine breaks, which means you get trapped and you die very easily. That's where the ammo rack is on the tank, so it's quite easy to get ammo racked if you get shot in the back end. And that's where the crew sits in the Iron Rain. As for the armour, it's made of spitting Kleenex. It gets penned by pretty much everything you'll ever face. Any kind of HE round destroys you. And in terms of the statistics for the Iron Rain Ramatar Balsig Waffenträger, it's got 35 km/h top speed, which is slow, 12 km/h reverse speed, which again is very slow to reverse, 160 horsepower engine, which means that generally it's not like the best horsepower in the universe. Any kind of destructible cover that you hit will stop you dead a lot of the time, and a 10.14 horsepower per ton ratio again is poor, which means it struggles up to that top speed as well, which just generally means this tank is very, very slow, which, yeah, is pain for such a lightly armoured vehicle. 32 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed means it does turn fairly quickly on its tracks though, and that is quite nice. But you've got 23.89 degrees a second on the turret rotation speed, which is fairly common for a turreted tank destroyer, that the turret does turn a lot slower than the hull. 1.93 on soft, 1.01 on medium, and 0.92 on firm. Fantastic terrain resistances. They don't hold the tank back whatsoever. It's the power to weight that does. You've got 195 metres of steel concealment, which is absolutely incredible. 218 metres of on-the-move concealment, which again is absolutely incredible. And 461 metres of view range, which means that you can spot people, even though that's not the best view range in the universe, especially for a tier 8, you can still spot people at pretty damn good distances because your camo is so good. A 1.04 accuracy during rotation is not very good, with a 2.12 accuracy during movement. As a pair, it means the aim circle blooms out quite a bit, and you will have to wait on that 2.19 second aim time that we have on this vehicle to be able to get the gun aimed in and ready to go. You do have 0.3 accuracy now, though, with all the gun perks and stuff like that, and the food, etc. on this vehicle, which is fairly accurate, and it means it will hit its shots if it is fully aimed. 5 degrees of gun depression is very inflexible. It means you have to really overexpose yourself on a ridgeline to be able to get the gun down on target, to be able to hit the targets. So you've got to be careful of that and pick your positions wisely to get this gun going. You've got a 3-shot clip on this 128mm gun, which is 2.7 second intra-clip reload, so it does take a wee bit to get the shots out compared to a a faster output autoloader, but it does hit hard, as it has a 33.22 second reload, which is 2.2k DPM, but again, you don't really pay attention to the DPM of autoloaders too much, as it's down to the burst, which with a 5.4 seconds to fire all 3 shells. You've got 3 shells for 246 pen, which has 311 on the APCR and 65 on the HE, 490 alpha, which means this clip is pure filth, which is why it's so bad in a lot of ways, because naturally the clip is pure filth, so they've made it and balanced it to make it worse in every other way, right? That's how balance goes. So this clip, if you do catch people out, it's just pure filth, because there's so many tier 7s you will full health clip out. There's quite a few tier 8s that you'll basically take off 90% of the hit points as well, because you're nearly hitting them for 1500 in 3 shells, which is, yeah, filthy. This clip is pure filth. Penetration is great at 246 and 311, as it is the gun from the E75. And yeah, you got 920 meters a second shell velocity on the standard AP, 1,150 meters a second shell velocity on the premium APCR, and 920 on the HE. The premium velocity is pretty nice, and again, the gunner handling will actually feel better with the premium APCR just because of the velocity, not the AP. And you do have a 150% silver earn rate, which means this tank does actually make pretty good silver, and especially since you don't have to fire that much premium in this vehicle, it will make you some good silver. But yeah, that's the Iron Rain statistically. That's what I run in terms of recruiting equipment. Like I say, it's a pretty damn good stealthy tank destroyer. It's just really not my cup of tea. It's not my kind of playstyle whatsoever. I find it really boring to play. But a lot of people who like that more super stealthy tank destroyer kind of gameplay will enjoy this vehicle. And it is a pretty solid tank destroyer at it. The only real thing that is definitely a frustrating thing for saying we've got no armor and the reload so bad is the fact that the mobility is really poor on this vehicle. But yeah, there we go. So I'm going to send you into the replays where you can watch this tank in action, see how it handles, see if it's a bit of you or not. So I'll see you in the replay. So here we are in the replay with the Iron Rain Ramatal Balsig, and like I say, it's just not my kind of tank. I don't particularly enjoy playing it, and that's because you can't really be that aggressive in it. You have to try and pick your positions to sit in, and then wait for enemy tanks to make a mistake and become your prey. Now that is something that this tank does do exceptionally well, and that is make tanks its prey, generally. And that's because this clip is absolutely magnificent. As you do nearly 1500 damage in a clip, you can clip out a lot of attacks. Like the SFAC 105 there. I can clip out the SFAC 105 with this clip very, very easily, and it pushes out the damage decently quickly as well with the 2.7 intra, which means that if something does get caught in your sights, it's just gone. So we tried to take a snapshot there at the T25 AT. We missed, but we still had the chance to put 2 extra shots in and finish him off. Now, we're going to have a very, very good game here with the Iron Rain, and it will definitely show off the tank in its entirety with everything that's good and bad about it, realistically, even though the result is going to be really good. And a lot of that is because, yeah, like I say, the mobility on this tank is actually really poor. If you can use the fantastic camo and the fantastic gun, you will be able to farm up from so many locations, and it is wonderful for that. But there is a lot of sitting around and twiddling your thumbs in this vehicle, and especially when the gun decides to misbehave and be a little bit annoying, you can just sit there in pure frustration going, oh, what could have been, right? So we're trying to look for shots at the G-Saw, but we find shots towards Mr. M46 Patton KR. He gets himself safe, but an IS-2 drives out, and then the T-32A drives out. So we managed to get a perfect clip off there, and we're up to 1885 damage, and we're just going to sit and wait for our reload once again. And you saw the camo in action. That 195 meters of still concealment is absolutely fantastic on the Iron Rain, and there is so many situations where you just stay unspotted. And in that situation, I kind of expected to get spotted after the first shot, but it didn't happen. And with that, my confidence grew in the position I was in, because at that point I was like, oh wait, if I was unspotted there, then that's great. That means I can keep shooting, keep poking over and not get spotted. Now, Mr. Stockade gets spotted here. We get 2 shots in to pen him. Would have been nice to get all 3 in, but the third one, or the first shell of the clip, realistically, aimed at the left-hand side of his upper plate, hit the middle of the pike nose, and so it bounced, which is really frustrating. But like I say, that's what this gun does a lot of the time. Even though it's super-duper accurate, it still likes to go, you know what? I'm going to find the most inconvenient spot to shoot and then bounce because, you know, that's what it does. So we're up to 2.8k damage with 1084 assistance. And again, this tank, when you're in a position like this, is all about watching the map. Watching the map and seeing what is happening everywhere so that you can see where your next sets of shots are going to be and where you can be the most effective. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to chance taking a hit so I can go over and put a shot into the Brazilian Bulldog, because the Brazilian Bulldog is deadly to me, and also he is the thing that might keep spotting me. But the first shot just went, you know what, light tank, tracks only, why not? Thanks, Mr. 128mm gun. But we're going to go over, missed the next shot because the 920 meters a second shell velocity wasn't quite enough for the amount of lead I gave it there. I should have led the shot a little bit better. But we did get a third shot into Mr. Brazilian Bulldog, which tracked him in place. And again, I really hope the light tank gets destroyed because he is the threat to me, as he's the one that's going to keep lighting us up. But you saw the gun handling once again there, where you really do have to give that little bit extra lead because the shell velocity isn't as good. And the fact that the gun still likes to derp even if you get it aimed in, you sit there going, but why did you go low and hit him where there's no tank and just hit the track? Come on, gun, you know. So we're nearly loaded again. We get spotted. We get out-spotted there. Something sees us and we didn't see them. And that's because 461 meters of view range. As soon as you're trying to spot anything that's got any semblance of camo, like yourself, or like the SFAT 105, yeah, you're just not going to see it unless it fires, which is annoying. But Mr. T28 here has got problems, and that is we've caught him out. And I was happy to take the hit from the T28 to just absolutely delete him. And that's what we did to get that second kill of the game. We're up to 4.5k damage with 1422 assistance damage. And we've still got a lot of people camping behind us at K7. We've still got TDs back at F9. And we still seem to have control of the 8-9 line in general. So what I want to do is be the scout. Again, I have fantastic camo. I don't have great view range. I have good enough view range, though, that I should be able to spot the mediums and the heavies. So if I keep poking over in the tree or in the bushes, I should be able to spot them as they are sitting in front of us, and my team should be able to get some shots in, help us out, give us some assistance, right? So we've seen the TD, which is the SFAT 105 on our left. Can't get a shot into him, but we can get shots into Mr. T32A. Now, he's driven out into a position which is absolutely poor for his tank, because he's not hull down, he's out in the open, and Iron Rain likes to say hello. Now, that was perfect example of a tank making a mistake, and this tank can punish that. If you can catch someone out, you really can make them your prey, and they will just die, because, well, 1500 clip potential, a little bit less than that, you get the point. It is just utterly beautiful, and it is one of the key strengths. And again, I suppose that's why, naturally, the mobility of this vehicle is poor, why it's got no armour, and why the gun handling on this tank can be a bit derpy at times. It's because it's all balancing out that clip, which, yeah, is genuinely pure filth. It really is. But there we go. So there's 5 tanks left on the enemy team. There's 5 tanks on our team. Artillery is now deciding that we're the ones that should die because we keep getting lit up. We're in a perfect place for him to shoot, which means we've got to keep juking him, keep baiting him, and hoping for the best. Now, they've managed to kill a couple of the people that were sat up at K7, a couple of my support snipers, which is now going to make this very, very awkward. So I'm trying to maneuver myself into a position where maybe I can get a shot into Mr. Icebreaker, because I just need to get rid of this dude, because again, he's going to be spotting me. Maybe I can poke over and get a shot into the Sturm Tiger P, but the Icebreaker is in a perfect place to shoot us, so that's quite lucky that we managed to avoid that shot, and the SVAC. But the problem is the 5 degrees of gun depression. 5 degrees of gun depression on this vehicle, especially with it being so low to the ground, sucks. And that means that in this situation, I just can't do much, because I can keep lighting them up, which is what we're getting assistance damage for, but I'm not being able to go and actually get the shots I want in to be that tank destroyer, to get rid of some of the enemy hit points. So we get spotted the moment we try and poke over, and that was because, well, proxy spot. The Icebreaker actually got within 50 meters of us. That proxy spotted us, and so we couldn't poke over and spot either the SVAC or the Sturm Tiger P. But we're seeing AP shells fly from in front of us at G3. So I decided, yeah, no, this position, I know the SVAC's now moved, because I saw where the shell tracers were. This position is starting to become untenable. Artillery is still trying to smash shots into us. So I need to try and maneuver myself into a position where maybe I can catch out the SVAC, which is dangerous, because he could just kill us in 2 shots with a double barrel. Or try and get myself into a position where I can find shots into the rear of the Icebreaker, or again, spot up Mr. Sturm Tiger P, which we've managed to do, because artillery should, there we go, slam the shot in. We have to be careful of their arty, though. And, yeah, it hits us. Now, it's a GW Panther, so that was very fortunate, because the GW Panther probably should have penned us, and if it penned us, it probably should have killed us. And once again, it misses, but it just splashes and blows the tracks off. So, with the Sturm Tiger P looking like he was thinking about YOLOing, artillery fully zeroed in on us. I just got to get out of that position, get away from it, because they're making it too easy for the enemy team to be able to survive, number one, get to a position where maybe they can win, and if anything decides to push down the K-line, I'm dead, because I'll get spotted, and they will shoot me, and if it's something that's stealthy, like we know there's an SFAT 105 still alive, it's just going to kill me, with no problem. I'm never going to spot the SFAC, so it's just, we have to go and try and do something else, because it's just not working. And that's what we're going to do, and that's where another weakness of the Baltic comes in, and that's the repositioning element of it. In that, like I say, this tank is one of those that's kind of like the Stark STRV S1, in the fact that you, and it's different to the S1 in that position, in that regard, but it's one of those that you want to go and try and find a position where you can farm up, and that's where you want to be staying. Different to the S1 in that regard, because naturally, the reason you're doing that in the Iron Rain is you're just so slow to reposition, it's pure pain. In the S1, it's different because, well, once you've found a good farming location, that's the defensible position you want to be taking, but there we go. So, with the Iron Rain, we've managed to find Mr. Artillery, we managed to aim it 3/4 of the way, and the gun still said, you know what, the rock next to the IE. Yeah, that's what I want to hit. And so we actually missed him, sadly. We stopped at that 5.6k damage or 2.3k assistance, and what I feared was going to happen did happen, and that is the SVAC and a couple of friends went down the K-line and went and killed our RE. Now, I feared that was going to happen. The RE was dead anyway, that was a sad time for him, but it was more that I feared that they were going to go down that way, and if I got spotted, they were just going to shut me down. So that's why we left. Decided we're going to get rid of the artillery, because the artillery is a key issue for us, in the fact that naturally every time we kept getting spotted, they kept trying to slam shots down range. And since it's a GW Panther, well, the GW Panther fires very, very quickly, so it was just constantly trying to farm us. And yeah, if it hits us and properly pens us one of those rounds, we're just dead. So yeah, we need to get rid of it. There's still 4 tanks left. There's the Icebreaker from earlier, the Sturmtiger P, an SU-100M1 somewhere, and the deadly SFAC 105, which is going to be a royal pain, because again, the SFAC 105 is just so much better than the Iron Rain by a very, very, very large margin, and that's because, while we don't have a fully traversable turret in the SFAC 105, it does have the fantastic guns, shell velocity, all that good stuff. Its camo's only a little bit worse than the Iron Rain. It's about 30-40 meters difference. You've got similar view range, but the flexibility in the mobility of the vehicle is just so much more nice for the tank. And that's going to make it difficult for us, to be able to outmaneuver it and also just get the chance to be able to clip it out. Now, naturally, if we can catch it like the SFAC here, we could try and clip it out, but we missed the shot. We also don't get the chance to shoot the SU-100M1 either. But we are trying to get ourselves back behind cover, so the Sturmtiger P can't get us. And Mr. Jagdpanther's going hero mode boss. Oh no, our hero mode boss Jagdpanther got murdered by the SFAC, which is a sad, sad time. He managed to kill the SU-100M1 and the Sturmtiger P there. That was good going from that guy. But with the SFAC being where he is, that means we know where he is and can try and get around that. But fortunately, very fortunately, the TD at C4 actually spots the Icebreaker in a perfect position where we can drop the 3 shells out the clip and finish off Mr. Icebreaker for our 4th kill of the game. That was very fortunate, but what I wanted to do was come over this way and get close to this rock here at F5, and the reason I wanted to do that is because I have a ridgeline to get myself safe behind, and also with where the SFAT 105 looked like he was going, I might be able to outspot, or at least spot the SFAT 105 while he's on the move, catch him out, and then clip him out. But obviously we got fortunate with the fact that the Icebreaker drove out into the open, which gave us the perfect opportunity to get a shot in. And now we're in the position that I wanted to be in to try and catch out that SFAC. Now, he could quite easily still be on that ridge. Problem is, we're never going to see him unless he fires. And that's the problem. So we've just got to be that little bit more patient, wait for them to make the mistake and shut them down. But the problem is, this is where I start to get very bored. I start to get very bored playing a tank like the Iron Rain, because this is the way you have to play it. And then I just go, you know what, I'm bored, I'm just going to go try and force it in a different way, which is the not smart thing to do, and that's what we're going to do. So we're going to go try and push after Mr. SFAT 105, which again is a bit of a problem, because we will probably end up being in a position where we only spot one another if we fire, or if we do spot one another, we're going to spot each other at the same time. And yeah, that's going to be a bit frustrating. So generally, we knew where he was. We've got the TD at D4. So we're going to try and go up onto the ledges along the 9 line, and that way we can make sure that he's not hiding along the 0 line in the little dips. And also, if he is at D7 or C8, we should be able to see him. Or at least that's what I thought. Spoilers. So yeah, we're going to go and push over this little ridge, get ourselves into these bushes that are currently on top of the ridge, and this is again where the pain of the Iron Rain is. We're so sluggish and slow to try and get ourselves into place. We've got 42 seconds left on the clock, which means at the rate we're going, I think with the new win conditions, we'll actually lose, because 5% HP versus 3%. Even though we've got 2 people left alive, it's still 5% versus 3%, which means we're probably going to lose. So we have to go find the SVAC 105 and get rid of it. Our friendly TD started to push out at D4 now, because he's realised, oh, the clock's over, we've got to go chance it. And we're not finding him. And in fact, that's the camo of the SVAC right there, and the camo of the Iron Rain, in the fact that we managed to fire 2 shots there, not get spotted whatsoever. But we were lucky that we were in the perfect place to just put the 2 shots in and shut him down. But we finished with the victory. An amazing game for the Iron Rain there, with 5 kills, 7,007 damage, 2.7k base XP, the 2.3k assistance, ace tank at high caliber. And that's the Iron Rain. Like I say, it's a tank destroyer that's really not for me. I find it pretty damn boring, to be perfectly honest, as most games don't go like that. But that game really did show off everything about the tank, from the weaknesses like no armor and the sluggishness and the derpy gun, to the strengths like putting yourselves in good positions with the fantastic camo and the fantastic clip as well, to just catch people out and go, no, you go bye-bye now, delete. And that's what the Iron Rain can do. So here we are with the next tank in the list of tanks you can get from the Valor store, and it is the Fraternite Char Emily 75, which is the tank that a lot of people are probably going to want to pick up, as it is one of the more expensive vehicles that's been added to that store, as it is a tier 9 premium, and they are super duper generally expensive. The Char Emily 75 is a pretty weird and funky light tank. Number one, you get a turbo, which means you can go a lot faster, but your gun handling will get a lot worse. You got pretty decent camo, or pretty good camo realistically, but your view range isn't the best. You've got two types of guns, which is the funky part. One that you're going to see in the replay for this video, because I feel like it's the gun that most people will do the best with, and it's probably the most conventional gun that people will be able to use. And then you've got a weird burst fire gun, which is this one here that I've just switched out of. And this one has 6 shells in its clip, but it will only show that you've got 2 shells. And that's because once you fire one of those, it will burst fire 3 shells of 200. So you can do 600 in one little burst. Now, they're 3 separate shells that will hit, and they all have to hit and pen to be able to do that 600. But you've got lower pen, it's a bit more inaccurate, and you cannot control the burst, because once you pull the trigger, it will fire 3 no matter what. And it's the gun that is the most difficult to get the most out of. It's limited in terms of its ammunition count, and it can be a right pain to use as well with the lower penetration. So most people will struggle to use that gun, which is why the other 6-shot autoloader, which is a standard auto-loading 6-shot gun, is the one that most people will understand, and is why it's the one that I'm going to showcase in this video. Let's say if you want to go see the burst fire gun in action, I do have a video from when I reviewed the tank, and then one shortly after as well, talking about both guns, showing both guns. So you want to go see what that gun is like, you can go watch those videos, or you can watch any of the other content creators that have also covered this tank as well and done the exact same. There's plenty of videos out there on this tank in that regard. So the Fraternite, like I say, it's a pretty weird light tank. It's one that I don't enjoy particularly much as a light tank, but it can still be pretty memey at times. It's just the fact that it's so big. It's such a big, chunky light tank. It's one of those that likes to just catch shots. People never seem to miss you, and they like to set you on fire, which is one of my big frustrations with this vehicle, but there we go. So what do I run in terms of a crew and equipment on this tank? Well, I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Camouflage Expertise, Silent Driving, Muffled Shot is what I'd meant to say, with the Steady Aim, the Snapshot, and Run and Gun. All 3 gun perks to help the gun out as much as possible, especially since we're not going to be running the gun stabilizer on this vehicle. The Camouflage Net with the Camouflage Expertise and Muffled Shot to get the best out of this camo on this tank, so that we can stay unspotted, stay stealthy, and go scouting, and when we make a scouting run, it's less likely for us to be able to get spotted. And then in terms of the equipment, we run the traction system, the camo net, and optics. Optics to be able to go get that 486 meters of view range, so we can try and spot for ourselves, as we are a light tank, we're a scout, it's what we do. The camo net to get the 267 meters of still concealment, so that we can stay stealth that little bit easier, and the traction system to get that 66 kilometers an hour. Now, with the traction system in, because the base speed of this vehicle is 60, but it's 75 in the turbo, you actually go at 82 in the turbo with that traction system involved, which means this tank is super duper fast in that turbo mode, which you have to press left, or no, it's right on the D-pad to be able to activate. But there we go. So yeah, I run those equipment choices, like I say, to make the tank that bit faster, get the camo down as low as possible, and be able to spot for ourselves. I don't run the gun stabilizer because I would rather go faster in this tank, and then if I'm going to fire it, I'll get myself into a nice flanked position where I can make sure I'm aiming the gun and fire away. In terms of the modules for this vehicle, as you can see, that's where the engine bay is at the back, which it does tend to catch shots. It does set on fire, which is one of my big frustrations with this tank, is that it just seems to always catch a shot, catch on fire, and your hit points bleed away with that, and it can be super annoying. That's where the ammo rack is on this vehicle, and that's where the crew sits on the Fraternite as well. In terms of armor, it's a light tank. You basically have no armor, which is a thing for you in general. And like I say, because it's such a big profile of a target, it will generally take shots. In terms of the statistics for this vehicle, like I say, we've got 66 km/h top speed, which when we enter the turbo mode goes up to 82. 22 km/h reverse speed, which I'm not sure what the reverse speed is in the turbo, but it goes like a little bit faster, even backwards. 850 horsepower engine, which is 28.72 horsepower per ton ratio, which is absolutely phenomenal, and it means that you travel super quickly. And if you go into the turbo as well, that power to weight will be even better because the horsepower gets better, and it means the mobility of this tank is absolutely incredible, which is what it is. It takes 1.5 seconds to get into that turbo mode, by the way, and like I say, that's pressing the left on the D-pad to be able to get that mode activated. You've got a 41.8 degree a second hull rotation speed, which means this tank does turn very quickly on its tracks, although because it's quite a long vehicle, it sometimes feels a bit sluggish in turning left and right, just because it's fairly long. The ground resistances are fantastic, don't hold the tank back whatsoever. 267 meters of still concealment, with on-the-move concealment that's the same because it's a light tank and it keeps both of those, is pretty damn nice camo, with 486 meters of view range, which is slightly below average for a tier 9 light tank, so sometimes you can struggle to spot things that some of the tier 9 mediums and even some of the tier 9 heavies can spot, but it's still pretty decent view range. That's pretty average view range for a tier 8, but yeah, there we go. 54.3 degrees a second on the turret rotation speed is a lot faster than the tracks, and that is very nice for the Char MLE 75 Fraternite. 0.46 accuracy during rotation is actually very, very good, and a 1.79 accuracy during movement with this 100mm gun, again, is actually pretty good for the vehicle. And that without a gun stabilizer is actually a good level of accuracy during rotation and movement. The aim circle still blooms out a fair bit when you move this tank, but it's not unmanageable. Although you do have a 2.58 second aim time, and that is quite long to get this gun aimed in. But yeah, with the gun stabilizer, the aim circle becomes... it doesn't bloom out much at all. So if you want to be able to make the gun handling better and feel like you're ready to snap the shots all the time, just run a gun stabilizer instead of something like the traction system. But like I say, I like to make the tank faster, and I don't feel like I need the gun stabilizer quite as much, so I can go faster in this vehicle, and 0.46 accuracy during rotation and 1.79 on movement is actually manageable in of itself anyway. You've also got a 0.31 accuracy at 100 meters, I should say, which is fairly accurate too for this 100mm gun, which is alright. 8 degrees of gun depression, again, very flexible on a ridgeline, the Fraternite Char MLE 75, and that is a very nice thing for it. And if you use a ridgeline correctly, it can be very, very good position to take, because the turret is so tiny on this tank and it looks so small that it's quite a small target for people to actually hit on a ridgeline, so that can be quite good for this vehicle too. You've got a 6-shot clip with this version of the gun, which is a 3.5 second intra-clip reload, so it does take a wee while to get all of the shots out, because that intra-clip reload is really poor. You've also got a 26.74 second reload, which is quite long, which means you've got 2.2k DPM, but again, auto-loader, 6-shot auto-loader. You don't pay attention to the raw DPM that much, because it's all about how much you can burst. You've got 232 pen on the standard AP, with 263 pen on the premium APCR, and 53mm of penetration on the HE, which you're never really going to take the HE, because you're never going to get a chance to actually use it. But the pen on the standard AP and APCR is pretty decent. 270 pen on the main cannon as well for this 100mm, so it's a little bit lower than your standard 100mm that are generally 300 to 320. So yeah, you have that slightly lower clip potential with the 6 shots, but there you go. You can still actually clip out quite a few tanks, especially tier 7s and some of the tier 8s as well. You got 1,050 meters a second shell velocity on the standard AP, with 1,350 meters a second shell velocity on the premium APCR. That is fantastic velocity on the APCR, and a lot of people will fire pure prem on this vehicle, not because of the penetration at 263, just because of that shell velocity, because that shell velocity is incredibly good, and that means that you don't have to give quite as much lead at distance to be able to hit your targets, and it genuinely makes the gun handling feel so much better on this tank, just because of the velocity. So it's a very, very nice thing to take on the Fraternite. And as it is a tier 9 premium, you don't get any bonuses, so that's why it's probably best to get enough flags to pick this vehicle up, because it's never really worth buying this thing for gold, because it's way too expensive and it hasn't got any bonuses to go along with it. But for free, absolutely worth picking up. Absolutely. And it can be quite nice for that with the Fraternite. But yeah, that's the Fraternite. What I'm going to do now is send you into the replays where you can watch this tank in action, see how it handles, and just see if it's a bit of you or not, and see how funky this little tank is. So as always, everybody, I will see you in the replays. So here we are in the replays with the Char MLE 75 or the Fraternite, and what we're going to do on this map is Hidden Village, right? Not the best map for a light tank in the universe, but that's where a strength of the Fraternite can come into play, and that is that you don't have to necessarily play it like a true scout. You can play it as a pseudo-medium, and you might be going pseudo-medium. You've mentioned a pseudo-scout in the Cromwell, and that's obviously where you play a medium tank like a scout tank, and it can do it well. This thing can play like a medium tank with this clip pretty effectively as well, because you've got the good camo, you've got the pretty good view range, you've got the good mobility, you've also got the pretty good gun as well. Now, it can be a bit derpy at times, but you've got 6 shells in this clip, which is a very nice potential for the clip in general. You can clip things out really easily, and if you put yourselves into support locations where you can just keep firing at the enemy team, you can rack up some very nice damage indeed. So that's what we're doing here on Hidden Village. We've come to this mid-ridge here at E6, which is really the only position that you can take to truly spot things, but then we can poke over, use the 8 degrees of gun depression, and then just try and farm out some damage. Now, we got an extra shot there into the E4, just putting ourselves higher on the ridgeline to try and get the shot into his side. But we should have led it a little bit better, as the 1,050 meters a second shell velocity let us down a little bit. And we only got 2 shots there into the E4 in total. Now, we managed to dodge the shot from the EBR-90. If I could get rid of that guy, that would be great. But we've popped the reload on our tank. And thankfully, right as we popped the reload, my controller dies. Yay! That's good timing, isn't it? It's always good timing when you manage to... At least we managed to pull back behind the ridgeline and then click the reload button so we get the reload off, but hey-ho. So we're nearly 2 seconds left on the reload. We're in a position to be able to catch out shots into the E4, and now because of the controller dying, by the way, there's a slight delay in the audio sounds, so just bear with it, okay? But yeah, we got ourselves into a position where we could shoot the E4. I've destroyed the building, and the reason I've done that is because now, as you can see, it's the ability to shoot the E4 easier in the side, because the building was blocking those shots into that E4. So now I've destroyed that building, easier shots into that guy. We don't have to expose ourselves quite as much as we were, and we can pull back behind the ridgeline, reload, and try and get him yet again, because he seems to be the only one on this flank in front of us. We don't really have many over here as well. Most of our team's gone up to the 2-3 line, although our team's also made the mistake that happens quite a lot, and that is there seem to be a lot of them sitting behind the rock at F3 and D2. If you're on Hidden Village and you go up the 2-3 line, you really need to push to the rock at G4, because otherwise you end up giving her most of the top end of the map and you get surrounded and die quite easily, which is not very good, but there we go. So, with the E4 dead, like I say, he seemed to really be the only one here. But as we're pushing forward, we find a Waffling 100, and I thought, okay, that guy's AFK. No, he's just been chilling back there. So, we are starting to farm him up. We only get spotted with the final round, and that's because the EBR-90 decided to come down. We're up to 2.5k damage. Pull back so we can get safe, use our reload, and then we can get after the Waffly 100 again, or get after the EBR-90. Try and find another position to, again, support with our clip if we can. So, the EBR-90 is now a priority. We have 270 damage on this shell, which is a little bit weird for a 100mm. Most 100mm, especially the French ones, which this is near enough a copy of the one that you get on the Liberté and stuff like that, have 300 to 320 alpha. This thing has 270, which is a little bit odd, but there we go. So with 270, the EBR-90 wasn't a one-shot for us. We had to put 2 shells in, and we do manage to get rid of that wheelie boy. So we have 4 shells left. I'm trying to poke over to see if I can get a shot into the side of whatever that tank is that's come down. It's an STRV 1030, but he gets finished off by the 5120. I'm going to poke over with my rear instead so that it's easier to drive forward and get out of dodge, but we couldn't see whatever is back there. I thought I might, but no, it ends up out spotting us. So we go for the full reload. We've got 6 shells left in the clip for AP, so I decide, okay, you know what? I'm just going to go flat out for an APCR set. We've got 263 pen on the APCR. We're going to do that, and the reason is we're going to go try and put pressure on these tanks that are all being aggressive and getting around my 2 heavy tanks up on top. And since they're tier 10s, it's going to be a bit awkward with 232 pen, so 263 is the way to go. So we're just waiting for the reload to come in now, so we can try and support these guys. We find the rear of an E5. We tried to get the tracking shot, but it was a bit of poor aim. Realistically, we didn't get it in. But we've put 2 shots into the E5. He's now a 1 shot. We finish him off. And we've also got shots towards Mr. Chow. Can't find that. Can we finish it off the M5Y? Sadly not, as we ended up missing, but we do get a shot in to end up finishing that guy off. And, well, the E4 on the move over the ridgeline smashed the shot straight through us and puts us down to 346 hit points out of 1200, which is a sad time. Mr. E4 just went, you know what, it doesn't matter how big my aim circle is, I'm going to hit you anyway on the move. And so, yeah, if you take a hit from an E4, it's never going to go that well. But seeing as they've won that position and they've pushed to E3, we're just going to die if we sit there. So we don't want to sit there. We want to run away, see if we can get shots into the back of the 705, get rid of him, which we do. And now we can get ourselves safe on this side of the ridge, away from their marauding team that have won the top section. So we still have quite a lot of people left, but they're all down here in the dip. So what I'm going to do is try and poke round this corner, see if I can get shots into the side of the TD in the medium, and then again, assist where I can, distract, and get rid of enemy tanks. So as I was coming over, we end up finding a WZ-111-5A. I didn't expect that guy to poke out like that, so we managed to get a shot into his side. He misses us with heat. We're still looking for the shot, but sadly the rock is in the perfect place to just cover that 5A, and I can't go over and get shots into him because I just can't risk taking the hit. But I'm pretty sure he's just fired at my 4005, and the 4005 goes, well, I have a 183mm gun, sir. Get out of the game, and deletes him. So, we know there's a Waffly 100, and I thought, okay, Mr. Waffly 100 is not still going to be at J8. There's just no way. He's going to have moved up with these guys, right? So we're going to try and get up behind the Chaugs, get some shots into their rear, and try and, again, keep these guys lit up. Maybe my team down below can get shots into them. That's what we're aiming for. So we poke over. We end up getting spotted by the T30, who is in a position that can keep us lit up. We're just trying to poke around the corner to see if we can see the Chaug again, lighting him up, see if my team gets any shots into him. But we were detected there, and he actually saw us because the T30 was keeping us lit. But I'm waiting to get unspotted because that Chaug is clearly coming for us, and I don't want to get caught out. And oh no, there's the raid boss, Mr. Waffly 100. We get one shot into him, but the thing is, that little bit of turret sticks out around the corner. He's going to struggle to get shots at me. I'm being as careful as possible, and we managed to get all the shots into Mr. Waffly 100. Press left on the D-pad to go into our special turbo mode, so we get the extra speed. Now we're trying to get out of dodge, away from the Chaugs and the T30. I can't go left because the T30 will kill me, so I have to try and use my speed, get over here. But sadly, we end up getting shut down by the Chaug, and that's all she wrote, folks. But we finished the game with a really nice total for the Fraternite there. The 5 kills, 4.9k damage, 716 assistance damage. The ace tanker with that 1825 base XP. Really nice game for the Fraternite, which is a pretty nice tank, and is especially one that you will want to be picking up as it is a tier 9, and you can get it for free. So here we are with the next tank on the list, and it is the Czech tier 6 premium medium tank, the Zizka Skoda T40, a tank that I bought back in the day because of my love for the VK3001P, the German Tech Tree tier 6 medium tank, and I still love that tank. It's still a great little tier 6 medium tank. But I bought this tank because it looked fairly similar in terms of the gun with the 220 Alpha, the penetration being fairly similar, the mobility was similar enough as well, although it's a bit slower to be fair. And I thought, you know what, that looks like a premium version of the VK, just a bit bigger and a bit more Czech-like in the way it looks. You know what, I'm going to go pick it up and play it. It's not a very good tank. It's made of Ammarax, it gets its Ammarax detonated all the time, it gets set on fire all the time, it's sluggish to get up to its top speed, the gun is really derpy. On the whole, it's not a great little tier 6 tank. It can be a right pain to get the most out of it. And I need to put googly eyes on it, okay? This is when I kit it out before googly eyes were ever a thing in the game. But there we go. Don't come at me, bro. But yeah, the Zizka Skoda T40, it's not the greatest tank in the universe, quite honestly, and the Cromwell B is always well worth getting over the Zizka, but yeah, there we go. So, what do I run in terms of a crew and equipment? Again, fairly standard medium tank crew, born leader, rapid reload, 6th sense, situational awareness, steady aim, run and gun, snapshot, with camouflage expertise and silent driving, get the best out of the camo in general, which is poor on this vehicle, so it's nice to be able to get a little bit out of it. The gun is terrible, so I'm helping out as much as possible with all 3 gun perks as well. The advanced loader, the optics, and the GLD. GLD because, yeah, I really want to get this gun aimed in as quickly as possible, because if you fire this gun and it's not fully aimed in, it will just miss. And that can be super frustrating for the Zizka Skoda T40. And yeah, we run the optics to be able to get the view range up to 473 meters of view range, so we can spot for ourselves in this tank, because generally we will get spotted ourselves because the camo is not that great on this tank, and the advanced loader to get the best out of the reload, so that we can just try and trade with the 220 alpha on this tank. You could quite happily drop the GLD, since the aim time can be pretty decent, and get 290 meters of still concealment on this tank, which is actually pretty decent again. For such a large target, that's pretty good camo to have at 290, so you could definitely run the camo net over the GLD. I just run it the fact that I'm probably going to get spotted, use the GLD to get that 1.86 second aim time, and it means I can get the gun aimed in quicker and get firing quicker in this tank with that setup. But it's really down to you and how you're going to feel comfortable playing this tank. And then in terms of the modules, the engine bay is at the back like that. It tends to get set on fire all the time, getting shot back there. So that's pure pain. That's where the ammo racks are. If you get shot here or here in the left-hand side of the turret, your ammo rack is going to get detonated. The tank is going to lose its head. Happens all the time for the poor Zizka. And especially back in the day when we didn't have reusable repair kits, you'd end up repairing your ammo rack, take another shot for 100 damage, and instantly lose the ammo rack again. And it was all the time for the Zizka, and it was super frustrating. These days, obviously, it's not too bad, because you do have a reusable repair kit, so you'll get your ammo rack back eventually, but it's still pain that it loses its ammo rack all the bloody time. And that's where the crew sits in the Zizka Skoda T40 as well. In terms of the statistics for this tank, we've got 50 km/h top speed, 20 km/h reverse speed, 700 horsepower engine, which is 17.52 horsepower per ton ratio, which means you do get up to the top speed. It's just occasionally a bit sluggish to get there, but you will get to 50 km/h top speed. 38 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed means the tank does turn pretty quickly on its tracks. Ground resistances are pretty damn solid. They don't hold the tank back whatsoever. 330 meters of still concealment is not great. 338 meters of on the move concealment, again, is not too great, but we've helped it out with silent driving to get it down closer to the still concealment. 473 meters of view range is good enough for a tier 6 medium to be able to spot for itself. It's not horrific view range in the universe, and to be honest, for a tier 6 medium, it's probably fairly average at this point. 36.92 degrees a second on the turret rotation speed is slower than the tracks, so bear that in mind for the Zizka. You've got a 1.23 accuracy during rotation with a 3.17 accuracy during movement. Pretty damn poor accuracy during movement and rotation as a pair. Means the aim circle blooms out massively, and it is pretty huge on your screen as soon as you turn the turret or the tank. So you want to be able to use the aim time with the 1.86 second aim time to get that gun aimed in really quickly and be able to keep your DPM flowing on this vehicle. 6 degrees of gun depression is also fairly limiting for such a tall tank. It means that as soon as you go anywhere near a ridgeline, you do struggle to get the gun down on target because that gun depression isn't too good, especially for how tall this vehicle is. 0.3 accuracy at 100 meters as well is actually pretty accurate, but a lot of the time the gun still feels a bit derpy and likes to hit the floor. A 5.03 second reload is 2.6k DPM, which is actually pretty good DPM, especially for 220 alpha on this vehicle. It's just if the gun hits. 145 penetration on the standard AP, 200 pen on the premium heat rounds, I should say, and 44 pen on the HE. Again, the heat rounds are so-so. They're pretty good, to be fair, for this vehicle, and it'll help it pen most vehicles it's going to face, except for some of the more heavily armoured tier 8s. 145 on the standard AP is also not too bad as well. 220 damage, sorry, for the 88mm gun this tank has is actually pretty good as well. 773 meters a second shell velocity on the shell velocity. 773 is slow, very slow indeed. It means you have to give a lot of lead at distance to be able to hit your targets with this gun. And if you load the heat rounds, 600 meters a second shell velocity is very loopy indeed, and it is pretty inaccurate. It likes to miss shots with these heat rounds just because that shell velocity is so poor. So do bear that in mind. You're going to have to give a lot of lead with this vehicle to be able to hit your shots. You've got 130% silver bonus as well in this tank, which means it doesn't make the best silver in the universe, but for a tier 6, not too bad. But yeah, that's the Zizka Skoda T40, which, again, like I say, is a tank that is not that great. It really isn't. It's a tank that I always thought would be better, but it's really not. It used to be a lot worse, because it did receive buffs a little while ago, and that really did help the tank to be a lot better. Like, that aim time got buffed, and the accuracy got buffed, you know, all that little bits and bobs, which made the tank feel a lot nicer to play, but it's still not the best tier 6 tank in the universe. But there we go. You still can get it for free, and free you can never moan, right? So what I'm going to do now is send you into the replays where you can watch the tank in action, see how it handles, and see if it's a bit of you or not. So here we are with the Zizka. We're on Kaunas, and what we're going to do with Mr. Zizka is push aggressively to a position like ED7, because I can get safe behind the little ledge. I can try and spot people as they go across the A-B line, and we can take cheeky shots around the corner, just keep chancing it. Now, we've got to be careful, naturally, because 6 degrees of gun depression that you have on the Zizka for such a tall tank is genuinely poor, and it means that you have to overexpose a lot if you're trying to poke over the ridgeline. But the perfect thing about this position in front of us at D6 is that we don't really have to rely on gun depression all too much. We can just keep chancing it around the corner to be able to keep the shots flowing from this gun. Now, it's a position that we're going to struggle as well, because we don't have any camo. We're going to get easily spotted all the time, so we're just going to have to end up playing like we're spotted every single time we can. And the other thing is, if there's something a bit stealthy, then like that tank, light tank that's up there, the T-37, we're never going to see it, and it's going to be able to see us and farm us. So we do have to be extremely careful while playing this position. It is a very aggressive position to take, but it's one that could be fruitful, as it puts us in a position to keep firing this gun and use what is very good DPM for a tier 6 medium tank at 2.6, especially for having 220 alpha. And we can just keep farming. Just keep farming. Just keep farming. That's what we want to be doing with Mr. Zizka. The other thing we've got to be careful of is taking hits, because naturally the ammo rack on this vehicle breaks all the time. And while playing this vehicle, to try and get the replay for this video, I think I ended up getting ammo racked 3 times for doing 0 damage. It's like, first tank to see, hello, bang, ammo rack gone. Oh. Nice. Thanks, Zizka. You know, I should have saved some of those replays so I could play it as a meme clip, but there we go. It is what it is. It's what you get for not planning ahead. So you can see we're getting out-spotted, but we see the shell tracer of where Mr. Cheeky Light Tank is. We get one shot into the light tank blind. Going to try it again, but sadly it doesn't go to where he is. And this is where we've got to be careful when we're blind firing with this vehicle, because it's a bit hit and miss, as we do have 773 meters a second shell velocity on this AP, which is poor. It's poor velocity, and especially if you load the heat rounds and you've got that 600 meters a second shell velocity, again, it's just terrible. And it means that you have to give a lot of lead. But when you're firing into the distance and you're firing where there's no scenery behind, it just means that the shells tend to loop, and sometimes can loop over where you're actually trying to aim, which is super duper frustrating with the Zizka, but there we go. So the T-37 is still firing at us. We're still trying to find the blind fire to shut it down, but it's not quite working out. We are spotting the Scorpion, though, or the M56. He's at A6 currently, and he's a one-shot, so we're going to poke round. Should be able to kill this guy. He's only got 1mm of armor. Excuse me. I would like to say 1mm of armor right there, as we ricochet off of the Scorpion. Like, what? Okay, sure. Whatever, game. You do you, bro. You do you. That was a big middle finger from the game. That's what that felt like, but there we go. So, Mr. T-37 is trying to be cheeky. We actually managed to hit him there with the shot, but sadly, we only damage his gun. We really need that guy to be gone, because once he's gone, I can progress, try and attack the medium tank at D5, but with him being there, it was just a bit awkward, and especially since he would be able to keep poking out and shooting us. But thankfully, Mr. Super Hellcat got rid of that T-37, and now we can go pressure this Talon that is directly in front of us, and just get rid of that Tier 7 medium tank. So we're just going to drive around the corner, aim in, and fire to get rid of that guy. There's still 5 tanks left. I know there's a tank destroyer possibly up at C1, so we're pulling back, getting ourselves safe so that we don't take a big hit, as the TD is a Stirrer Mill, and the Stirrer Mill has a big gun, which actually could kill us in one shot, so with the HP we've got left. We see where the STRV S1 is. There's the Stirrer Mill, which we knew was probably up there on their TD ledge. So we're just going to wait for the aim time, which is 1.86, which is pretty good because we're running the GLD. But it still takes a wee bit to get it aimed in. He's now a one-shot. And we bounce on the Stirrer Mill. Zizka in action, everybody. This is what the gun is like. You sit there, bouncing shots that you sit there going, what? How did... Right, that's what the Zizka does. It's super duper frustrating to play as a tank, because mobility's alright, but you've got no camo, you're as big as a house, you're easy to hit, and you get ammo-racked all the time. The gun's super derpy, it likes bouncing shots that it really shouldn't, and it can just be a super annoying tank to play. You've already seen that with 2 of the shots, where they just sort of hit the tank in a place that we just can't do anything. And you sit there going, why Zizka? But why? Poké? Right, but there you go. So we're up to 2.7k damage with 958 assist. We got rid of the arty, nice bacon in there. We know where the Sturmill will be. He'll be aiming for us. We drive around the corner, get the drop on him, and finish him off. And we'll finish the game with a nice total again for the Zizka there. We'll finish with 4 kills, 2.9k damage. The victory there with top of the team for 1964 base XP. And yeah, that's the Zizka. Like I say, it can be a pretty nice tier 6 medium tank, but just generally it's pretty disappointing, and it's always super duper frustrating to play. I just never really truly enjoyed playing the Zizka, which is why I 3-marked it, so I never really had to play it again, but there we go. So here we are with the final tank of the video, the Stark STRV S1. Now, if you've seen my Gunganir review, you'll know I don't like the Swedish TDs. I've never ground them because they are really not my playstyle. I really do not enjoy them, and so I don't want to play them. And the Stark STRV S1 is another one of those that I really don't like, and I really do not enjoy. Is it a good tank destroyer? Yeah, because the penetration is amazing. The 390 alpha is nice. The DPM is pretty good. The camo is insanely good, just like the Iron Rain is. The view range is so-so, and the mobility is okay too. But it's just really not my kind of tank in the slightest. I do not enjoy playing it, and I just do not enjoy this vehicle. If you like campy TDs, once again, this vehicle you will probably enjoy. But the cheese wedge is just not for me. Really not for me. But there we go. So what do I run in terms of recruiting equipment? Well, this tank is super duper accurate, right? So I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, 6th Sense, Situational Awareness, which is the standard set that I'd run on everything. And then I just max out the camo. Camouflage Expertise, Silent Driving, the Muffled Shot, Green Thumb, and Trap Mechanic. So this gun is really accurate, and a lot of the time you'll be fully aimed because you'll be sitting in a stationary position, and turning left to right in this vehicle does not affect your aim circle bloom whatsoever. So it's going to be fully aimed most of the time when you're shooting at things. So instead, I make sure that I'm trying to stay unspotted as much as possible with the best I can humanly get out the camo with all of the camo perks. If you do want to help out the accuracy a little bit, you could definitely drop something like Green Thumb and run Steady Aim just to get it 10% more accurate, which is something that's always handy to do, to be fair. I just decided, yeah, you know what, it's accurate enough anyway. I'm just going to make sure that it's as camouflaged as I can get this vehicle so I can stay unspotted in my little campy situations. And in terms of the equipment, I run the Advanced Loader, the Optics, and the Camo Net. Camo Net to get the filthy 181 metres of still concealment that you see there. Optics to be able to get 461 metres of view range so I can spot for myself a little bit in this vehicle and outspot people at great distances. And the Advanced Loader to get the best out of the DPM so that I can farm up with this tank destroyer, as that is what this thing wants to be doing. In terms of the modules, that's where the engine bay is on this vehicle. If you get shot through the front, you will get set on fire. Again, it's a bit of a pain problem for the vehicle. The engine tends to get knocked out as well if you get shot through the front, so do be careful of that. The ammo racks, are right there in the back of the tank, so if you get shot in the back, you're likely to get your ammo rack damaged. But if you're getting shot in the front, it doesn't tend to get your ammo rack damaged too often. And that's where the crew sit in the S1 as well. In terms of the armour, you have a little bit of 45mm of armour there, so that can occasionally get you some troll bouncers, but the general upper plate is 30mm thick, which means most guns that are 91mm caliber or higher will go automatically straight through the Stark STRV S1, so pretty much all tier 9s and all tier 10s will automatically pen you, just by hitting you with AP or APCR. Heat rounds, because they've got no normalization, or because of the 80 degrees normalization or whatever, will go straight through this vehicle. So if a tank has an 80mm gun or a 90mm gun and can't pen you with AP, if they load heat, they will go straight through you again. You've got to also be careful of the cupola on top, because that can be penned too. But yeah, you've got to... The armor on this tank only really works depending on the tank you go against and knowing if it's got a lower than a 90mm gun or lower as to whether you're actually going to bounce them with the front of this vehicle. So it's something you've really got to play around in that regard. And then in terms of the statistics for this vehicle, it does have a 50km/h top speed, 45km/h reverse speed, 540 horsepower engine, which is 16.36 horsepower per ton ratio, which means it generally gets up to that top speed and the reverse speed fairly easily. But the ground resistances at 2.39, 1.38 and 1.29 are poor, which means they do hold it back at times, and it does feel sluggish because those ground resistances are poor. It's something that you could drop Trap Mechanic if you wanted to run off-road driving to make those better, so you can really help the mobility. But I like running Trap Mechanic because if you get spotted and you get instantly tracked, you'll be dead in the water, so you really want to get those tracks back on as quickly as possible. 26 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed means it actually doesn't turn that quickly for what it is, but it still does turn fairly decently. You've got 181 meters of still concealment, which is amazing. 206 meters of on-the-move concealment, which again is pretty damn solid. It means you are a pretty damn difficult tank to spot if you're using bush cover. 461 meters of view range is pretty decent. Again, it's below average in terms of the view range. It usually is about 486 for a tier 8. But still, with the such good camo that you've got, it means you can spot for yourself still pretty well. A 0.86 accuracy during rotation, with a 6.63 accuracy during movement. Now, that's outside the siege mode, by the way. When you look at these things, it is generally talking about outside the siege mode. So you look at the 0.86 accuracy during rotation and the 6.63 accuracy during movement. That is atrocious. But that's because that's what it is when you're not in the siege mode. When you go in the siege mode, everything generally gets a hell of a lot more accurate in this tank, as you've got a 0.33 accuracy at 100 meters. And I do think it sucks that in this page here, you can't see what it is when you go into the siege mode, as that is the general key point of it. As the tank has a 0.28 base accuracy in the siege mode, which means it's probably got about, seeing as we've got 0.33 here with the 0.36 base, you've probably got about 2.25 accuracy in the siege mode, which is why I don't run steady aim, because it's so accurate in that regard. You got 10 degrees of gun depression, which when you're in the siege is actually 13 degrees of gun depression, so you can depress the gun to basically the floor, and that's because of the siege mode. The reload is 7.44 seconds in this tank, so the reload is actually pretty good, which is 3.1k DPM, which is fantastic for that 390 alpha in this tank destroyer, which is where I say that if you get yourself in that snipey location, get yourself in that situation where you can sit and farm for days without getting spotted, that's where the key strength of this vehicle is, because it will farm really hard. As it has 288 meters of penetration on the standard APCR and 330 millimeters of penetration on the premium APCR, it butchers everything with its penetration. It is fantastic penetration on this tank, and it goes through pretty much everything you're going to face. 1450 meters of second shell velocity on the premium standard APCR, sorry, and 1400 on the premium APCR. Again, standard and premium velocity are fantastic, and it means that you don't have to give too much lead at distance to be able to hit your targets with this gun. The gun is absolutely phenomenal on this tank, especially because you don't want to be firing this gun outside of the siege mode. You're going to be in the siege mode to fire this gun. It's the only real way to be able to use this tank, and this gun is phenomenal. It really is. It's just that the general tank as it goes is an absolute pain. You have to be in the siege mode to be able to use the tank, and if you try and be any kind of aggressive, you just die, which is where I get the frustration, because it means you have to sit there and just wait for people to come into your crossfire or your sights to be able to get the shots in and kill them. And it's just a super frustrating way to play the tank, and yeah, I just don't enjoy this tank whatsoever, but there we go. So I'm going to send you into the replay where you can watch this tank in action, see how it handles, and see if it's a bit of you or not. So I'll see you in the replay. So here we are with the last replay of the video. Well done to you if you're still here, or hi to you if you've just skipped to the Stark STRV S1 because you want to see what it's all about. It's the beauty of chapters. That's why we chapter these videos, because there'll be tanks that people don't care about. I can guarantee the Frostbite probably doesn't even get a view in from most people, but there'll be the tanks that people do want to know about, and you can just use the chapters, skip to the tank that you want to know about, the tank that you're going to be picking up for free, which you want to be trying to aim to get them all if you can, but that will take a lot of time. And you can go see what's going off, and we're with Mr. Stark STRV S1, which, yeah, is a tank I just don't like. I just don't like this tank whatsoever. I just find it so... It's just boring, to be honest, and that's because it's a tank that can't really be aggressive. You have 90mm of armour, like we've pointed out in the garage section, which means that you have to be very careful about what's shooting at you. The mobility is a bit sluggish at times, but you get decent mobility. You've got great camo, which is fantastic, just like the Iron Rain. A gun, which is absolutely phenomenal, but you can't be aggressive. You literally have to find a position, sit there and go, this is me now. This is me for the game. This is my position that I will take, and hope that the enemy team will keep driving into your gun line, that your team doesn't die too quickly, so that you can help them and support them and keep them alive just by doing damage. So we've come to this position here at B9 in a tier 10 game on Overlord, and this is the perfect place to be. Not the perfect place to be in SFAC right there. Perfect place to be because we could be further back, get in a position to shoot these guys as they push down the 9 line. But sadly for us, we actually got lit up there. Now, I thought with my 181 meters of steel concealment that at 380 meters, these guys might struggle to see me, but it sadly just isn't the case. They're spotting me every single time. Now, I could be in my bush on my right-hand side, and you can see me readjust to try and go into a bushy location, but it's making it awkward to actually get shots at these guys from that position because of the house and also the dead SVAC. So with the Minotauro on top, we're just trying to still get the shot into his lower plate. And there we go. First shot of the game, finally. 413 damage. Still got a bit of assistance on those guys that were down the 9 line. But that is the gun. Like I say, if you get a pixel shot into a tank, you will hit it because this tank is very, very good. This gun is amazing. But we're just trying to find that pixel shot into the drive wheel of the E100. Tracked and pending. We've got a bit of assistance damage for that as well. And yeah, if you have a pixel that you can pen, you will hit it, because that's what this tank does. So we're going to load the 330 pen APCR rounds so that it makes it easier to go through the turret of the E100. The Gorilla 15's pushed over into a position I can't get shots into him. We can't get shots into the SVAC either. So we're just waiting for their team to decide to be a bit more aggressive, because they've decided to pull back, get themselves a bit more safe. And this is where the frustration is, because I might have gone, okay, they've decided to be a bit more careful, a bit more cautious. I'll go push the tempo in something. We can't do that in this tank. We just have to sit and wait. We have to sit and wait for their team to be able to actually make the mistake and make the push. So there is the XM57 who gets spotted trying to attack my, I think it's my 279E. But he's in a position where he might be sideways out for us, which he is. So we put a shot through the side of him there. He doesn't actually see us, and that's because, well, that tank doesn't have the best view range. We can't get a shot into the SVAC. The Tornvong's in a position where I can't quite find a shot because he's not come all the way round. So we're up to 1200 damage with 1650 assistance, and it's 1125. We've been sat here for a wee while. The XM57 pokes over, giving us his lower plate, which we put a shot straight through, but with the XM57, you can go through the upper plate and the lower plate with about 220, 230 pen. It's just the turret that is absolutely godly on that vehicle. And he ends up getting shut down by the Waffle E100. Now, the Conway started to shoot my heavy tanks and medium tank friends in the rear, because he's in a flanking position. So I'm starting to think I need to go into a place where I can maybe get shots into him, or find shots at Mr. STA1 over here. So we're just looking to see the STA1, but there's actually a building between me and him, so I can't find it. I really do want to get rid of this SVAC if I can, because the SVAC is pretty deadly for us. He can pen us with both his guns. He could double barrel us. It's not going to be a good time. Tornvong is poking over but not giving us any chance. And there's the STA1. We have a slim shot at this guy, which we get straight through, because again, we can shoot them from this spot if they give us enough of a chance. And that's what Mr. STA1 is doing. I don't think he quite realises. But that will miss us! Thanks, gun. Or RNG. Probably both, to be fair, as we end up missing the shots on the STA1. We're trying to maneuver ourselves into a better position to get shot, maybe the Conway of the E100, but we do get the shot into the E100, snapped in to finish him off. The Conway's looking our way. I'm just trying to chance it so that he would stay up on top of the ridgeline, give me an easy shot, but he decided not to. Now, there's 6 tanks left on the enemy team. We're up to 2.3k damage. We're at 1773 assistance. We know there was an SVAC over here, but he doesn't seem to be anywhere. And at this point, I'm bored. So I'm going to push. I'm going to push up, try and find a position where I can find the SVAC 105 or find a shot into the Conway and just try and get a little bit extra damage. But the Gorilla 15 is killing the King Tiger. He was over here, so he's now down towards the beach. We don't know where the Tornvong's gone. The SVAC's now spotted in the distance over there as well. And in fact, with a heavy tank getting spotted down towards the beach, and the SVAC 105 being destroyed by the Panther 2, we now know we're completely clear on this flank. So we've just got to use the mobility of the Stark STRV S1 to try and get ourselves into a better position to shoot these guys. But this is where it gets a bit awkward, because the moment we find a position where we can see these guys and get shots into them, we then have to wait the 1.6 seconds for the siege mode to activate, and then we can get our shot. And when we're chasing, it can be a bit awkward, and also if they were to decide to spot us at the same time, we're going to take a hit way before we ever get a chance to shoot them. But they've managed to kill everybody on the beach. We've got the little ledge in front of us, which is where I want to be, with the bush. So we're going to activate our siege mode, get into the bush, boost our view range with food, and poke over, because I was expecting one of these guys to actually come up the causeway. But they stayed down on the beach. I fully expected them to actually come up the causeway. They stayed down on the beach, which is going to give us an easy chance to get a shot into Mr. Tornvong. The camo's in action here as this Tornvong can't see us. We put a shot through the upper plate of the Tornvong. Again, I know I can take a hit from this guy, so I'm just going to pull over, get the shot through his upper plate. But Mr. Waffly 100 managed to shut him down, so we don't even get the chance to do that because we had to wait for the gun to get aimed in. And, well, Mr. Waffly 100 said, "Lol, I see you and I kill you." So there's only one tank left on the enemy team. It is the Sturm Tiger P, who is down on the beach somewhere. So we're just going to use our ability to try and get into a position to find a shot at this guy. But the frustration of this tank is it is so painful to be able to try and do that, as the Waffly 100 ends up shutting down the Sturm Tiger P. And finished the game with a decent total there for the Stark STRV S1. And yeah, it's just a tank that I don't enjoy this vehicle whatsoever. But there we go. We finished with 1 kill, 2.7k damage, 1773 assistance to the second class for the 1375 base XP. And that's the Stark STRV S1. That's the tank you can get for free in the Valor Store. But that's all the tanks you can get for free in the Valor Store now. So thank you very much everybody for watching, and I'll see you next time.
A great success!